Howdy fellow model railroaders, my name is Kevin Brown and I want to thank you for checking out my YouTube channel. In this video I want to document the building of the staging yards for my model railroad layout, the Brownsville Terminal Railroad. I suppose to start off with, just show where I've come from. This is the Brownsville section of my layout, and you'll see that there's 4 different tracks that leave through the wall out there. Originally, in my first incarnation of the layout that was over there, these 4 tracks was the sum total of my staging yard. I had to have trains staged on the main lines, which I'm going to try and avoid this time, and the 4 tracks gave me 4 trains that I could have staged and ready to go. This time I want to have much more. I'm shooting for at least 8 trains, and I want to keep the main lines clear for various operating tricks I want to try out later on. So that's kind of what got me started here. So as I look at this setup, it seems to me that this represents a junction of sorts, that the destinations at the outsides of the platform would be different than the destinations at the insides of the platform. And that got me thinking and working towards a operating scheme for this layout and a traffic flow. And I've been thinking about it for a long time. I put together a piece of paperwork this morning, and I want to get a chance to show you and try and explain what my thoughts are and show you how that affects how I'm going to put the staging yard together. So next, let's take a look at that paper. Okay, from the outset, my goal with this model was to mimic various other terminal railroads around the Midwest, specifically the Terminal Railroad Association of St. Louis, also the old Peoria and Pekin Union in Peoria, maybe even to some extent the Belt Railway of Chicago. The idea being that it is a jointly owned connecting railroad that moves various freight and passenger trains and does the local switching on its own. So that's kind of the basis behind it. Now, like I pointed out before, with the station at Brownsville, it became pretty obvious that it would be advantageous to make that a junction. So as you can see here, I've put north traffic either comes from the north, goes through the south, and vice versa, or from west to east and vice versa. The idea that the Brownsville Terminal Railroad links all 4 of those directions. And you can see here, I have a basic schematic of the layout as I hope to have it, and the flow of traffic both east-west and north-south, obviously going down the same main line, and the single track section here that'll make things interesting operationally. And what comes out of all this is all of a sudden I've got a lot of different operating possibilities, and it also means that I can be trading cars back and forth between through freight trains in various forms, and not just limited to delivering specific cars to specific industries on the layout. So it really gives me quite a lot of flexibility in what I want to do. And this is, like I said, this is where I'm at so far, and there will be, I'm sure it'll change in the long term. But it comes down to essentially a minimum of 4 different railroads, 1, 2, 3, 4, one which is east and west oriented, another which is north and south oriented, the BTRR itself, which will handle the switching and the local, and then I'm hoping to have enough room to put a quickie little transfer job from some as yet unnamed yard nearby, which will give me a whole bunch of different ways to forward freight cars. So, all right, so long story short, there's going to be 2 basic staging yards needed to do this. One is the east-west staging, and the other would be north-south staging. I'm going to start off with the east-west staging, and we'll show you on the other side, and that's where we're going to begin. One quick note, this is some of the, I just got an order in of Kato Unitrack. This is probably about half of what I'm going to use for the north-south staging, or excuse me, the east-west staging yard. But I had quite a lot of stuff in stock, so even at this ended up being quite expensive. I forgot how expensive it is to put yards in. So yeah, for the moment I'm going to work on the east-west and save up a bit, order some more track, and work on the north-south yard later. But even having just the east-west in here will greatly increase what I can do on my layout. So anyway, time to go to the other side and start putting some track down. Okay, that was theory. This is practice. Here's my staging yard with the 2 main lines in. The first of the staging yards I'm going to put in is going to be the east-west lines, which is going to consist of 2 tracks on each side of the main, one for a passenger train, one for a freight train. Now, anytime you're dealing with these are going to be double-ended sidings, by the way. Anytime you're dealing with siding length, you've got to start considering what sort of train length you're going to be working with. I have several rules of thumb. I just go through really quickly. First off, 3 50-foot cars in N scale is pretty close to a foot. 2 4-axle units and a caboose is also pretty close to a foot. So if you want a dozen-car train with 2 locomotives and a caboose, you're going to end up with 5 feet. And that's kind of my working minimum for the siding length for a freight train. And that's kind of what I got here, pretty close. Not much to spare, I'm afraid. Now, passenger trains are a little different. Just right off the top of my head, a 4-foot passenger train, which looks pretty good to me, has enough for a 6-axle diesel at the head end and about 6 coaches. So I can go a little shorter on the passenger track, so that'll be the outside one. The inside one, I'm going to need everything I've got. As far as other rules of thumb, a couple big modern 6-axle units are pretty close to 2 foot as well, and they don't have cabooses. If you're going to use a couple 6-axle locomotives with a caboose, that's going to be a little more than a foot. Now, what helps me out quite a bit, I use a lot of 40-foot equipment. In fact, over half, probably 2/3 of my freight cars are 40-footers, not 50-footers. So if I stick with that 12-car train, I'll probably fit quite handily within 5-foot siding. So first thing I'm going to do is start putting the ones in that'll be the most difficult over here. I'm a bit concerned about how this is going to affect my next phase, which would be the north-south staging yards. So I'm going to get that done, do some measurement, maybe do some adjustment. So let's see how it all works out. Okay, I've got the first half of the staging in place and trains running through it. So far I'm very pleased with the way this is working. I was afraid, I'm not doing any really in-depth wiring yet, I'm just putting it in place. I usually don't like to let a turnout do the routing of the power. I think counting on that sometimes is kind of dangerous. But here it's worked out so far so good, and these are the Cotto number 6s, they're just as reliable as the day is long. So basically, I'll try and show you here as it comes around again, I'm able to shift those stuff to the track on this side pretty easily. So yeah, as far as how this is going, the position of all this is going to affect the next phase of the staging yard, I really don't know. I'm going to have to order some track and try and push it in. Basically what the next stage is going to be is connecting to these tracks here. If you remember from Brownsville, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 tracks that go through the station. 1 and 4, nothing's connected to them. Those are going to be the north staging. I'm going to connect this, and it will be in 2 parts. 2 tracks on this side of the east and west staging, 2 tracks on this side. So that's kind of the next thing. Here's the train coming through. Goes through those turnouts very easily. And I can cheat and get my button gear and just start and stop trains when I'm on this side by just turning the power off. So pretty simple. So I'm going to go ahead and put the rest of this together. I hope I've got enough small pieces of track to make this work. I'm fearful that I don't, but we'll see. And we'll see how that all works out. Talk to you in a bit. Okay, everything is put together and I've cleaned things up a little bit. I did find I was short one of the little bitty pieces, but I was able to use an expansion piece, one that expands in and out. I really like it, but I don't know if I want to leave it in there. I'm going to have to order some more short tracks But if that's all I forgot, that's not too bad. The next stage is going to be, get out of the way. Right as it gets on this side of the wall, I want to put number 6 this way and that way, and I'm going to connect them up over there with tracks 1 and 4 out of the Brownsville station, and that's going to be the beginnings of the north-south staging yard. So that's the next step. I got to figure out how much track to buy, and so it'll be a little bit before that shows up. So we're going to take a little break, and we'll get started in it as soon as the new track arrives. Okay, my track came in. I was able to put the 2 switches on this side of the wall. On the other side, right back there, is Minneapolis, which I've been working on. And we'll train through. This is the beginnings of the north-south staging. All I've done so far is extend tracks all the way down. We'll take a look. You can see the east-west tracks. Staging is still as I left it. 4 tracks on each side, or 2 tracks on each side of the mains. And you can see here how the north-south staging connects up with the tracks 1 and track 4 of Brownsville. So got this much done. I'm hopeful. I had a lot of questions of what I want to do next, but I think I'm just going to go ahead and put another double-ended siding here and out here, and that'll give me my 8 tracks and my main line. So I'll have to figure out how much more track I need to buy. I use a lot of track in this, and so I'll get that ordered, and we'll finish up the staging yards. Oh, one other thing, after the train passes, I did switch out that piece of expansion track that I had in there. This stuff's pretty ingenious. It stretches and expands, and it's kind of handy at places, but I don't know how reliable it is, and it's kind of expensive. I keep them around for emergencies. I don't want the track to rely on it. So, got that done. All this stuff is set. So time to order more track and finish his yard up. So my care package of Kato Unitrack arrived, and I was able to put in the last 2 sidings here and over here. This gives me my main line clear and 4 tracks, 4 trains each direction. I'm planning on having 2 passenger trains and 2 freight trains going each direction, which would give me a lot of operating possibilities. I still have a little room over here. I may just put a stub end line there for, I've got this idea of having a transfer job as another train that just goes from here into the yard, drops off and picks up cars and comes out. I can actually make it work without putting the stub track in by using these tracks carefully, but I don't know, we'll see how that works. For the moment, I'm just glad everything's in. In addition, I also, I've been waiting for Atlas with all the craziness. The showstopper had announced some GM&O Jeep 35s among other things, and those started showing up on eBay, and I picked up a nice pair of them. They should be coming around. They're pulling the freight train right now. I've had these units, in fact I painted these units every bit of 20 years ago, long before there was anything like DCC ready. These new Jeep 35s should, the decoder should slip in really easy. So I'm looking forward to getting those changed over so I can have some more DCC locomotives. Here they are now. Yeah, that's kind of where I am at. Next phase for the layout, we'll be working on the other side now on the classification yard. That's going to take some time. I was kind of surprised at how much this ran in switches and track, and it'll be even more expensive on that side, I imagine. So I try and set a budget and do a little bit at a time. So I'll start collecting the stuff for over there and putting it together, and just see how long it takes to get things where I want it. So now it's when I usually talk about the N scale of Bloomington normal, and as the last few videos have shown, there's really not much going on there. We are still meeting on Zoom, although there's been a suggestion to try and get together at a park that happens to be where the two railroads in town cross, and maybe do something in the evening, just get together at least outside and stay socially distant and not get anybody else infected or whatever. So that might happen, that might not. If not, the next time we're scheduled to get together isn't until September, so we'll see what happens there. So yeah, that's kind of it for the video. I hope you liked what you saw. If you did, please hit like and subscribe, and I'll talk to you next time. Thank you very much for watching.